Isn't wrestling just the best? I mean, isn't it just the best when it's really good? It gets you all excited and you go on the internet and all that one guy going, I hate everything. Even though 99% of people are actually waving a big flag that says sports entertainment is the best thing ever. Just to give you a bit of a spoiler, for this week's AEW Dynamite Ups and Downs, I thought it was Fabu and I love Sue. I wanted to be my mum. Regret saying it. But let's not waste around because you know what happens? These things go well long because there's so much to talk about. Let's up those downs for AEW Dynamite. The start of Dynamite this week was hilarious because Jurassic Express were in the ring waiting for their match when the Young Bucks just walked out without a care in the world and they just super kicked the referee. So last week they super kicked Alex Marvez and they didn't give two hoots that they each got fined $5,000 because they just did it again here like a couple of dicks. Commentary sold it hard that Matt and Nick Jackson had lost their minds and we doubled down on this because we followed them backstage where they were just hurling cash at Tony Khan because they knew what was about to happen. Also, Tony Khan, man, he was just sat here in like a t-shirt and some shorts like he was going to go surfing. What an absolute dude. I love this though, I love it because Adam Page's asshole actions, which he now regrets, has turned a bunch of other people into assholes and they can't even see it. This is great storytelling. Once it all calmed down, we did get a dinosaur and his friend versus We Love Old School Wrestling and it was just a treat to watch now, wasn't it? Jungle Boy as ever flew around early until he got grounded and then he got the tag to Luchasaurus who ran in and did all of his big moves because he's a big guy, but also the boy from the jungle has finally smartened up to how wrestling works. So over the last couple of weeks, he has won matches thanks to the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, so he kept going for it here. Unfortunately for him, FTR, they just too smart. They got all the experience, so they kept getting at it. So it's a bit like if you decide to kill a guy, you don't go there in a knife, you go in there with a gun, because that's the best way to do it. That was way too dark, I'm sorry. It all tied into the finish too, because after Jungle Jack had gone for a sunset flip, that absolute piece of trash, Tully Blanchard and Cash, they basically pushed Dax, so the momentum reversed, FTR were able to get the 1, 2, 3, and that was that. I mean, they're still your tag team champions, but they would have been anyway, because this was a non-title match. It's also one of those situations where using a fast pin like this makes all the sense in the world, because I didn't want Jurassic Express to lose, but also we need to make the tag team champions look like the absolute asshats that they are, and this achieved all of it, and it ticked some boxes. With that said, FTR did this right in front of the referee. Like Excalibur tried to pretend on commentary like he couldn't see what was going on, but Rey Mysterio could have seen what's going on when he closes one eye. Also, the tag champs were holding each other's arms for extra pressure, and it just made the official look like an absolute goof. This does happen a lot in AEW, so I said, you know, Mr. Transparent, we do what we need to do, it's getting it down. If you're going to cheat, it has to be away from the referee's eye. If it was Rey Mysterio, eye. Nope. Never gonna stop making those jokes. Then that absolute piece of baloney, Chris Jericho. We cut to the back here, and Matt Hardy was on the floor just going, because somebody had attacked him. And Private Party were there, and they were really worried, especially because they were meant to be talking strategy with Matt, because they've got a match against Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. And then who walked into shot with Floyd the Bank? It was El Champion, and clearly he had smacked Matt Hardy around, because he's just an absolute goober. I mean, no one has ever looked more guilty either. This is like robbing a bank and then instantly going back into said bank with the robbed cash and trying to deposit into your account. The story seeds we then got though, just rub them all in my face. And then don't, because it's strange, up. Because Kenny Omega joined commentary as we were going to get Adam Page versus Frankie Kazarian. And like I say, we just sprinkle these things like we want a whole garden to grow. And it was even made clear this was meant to be a tag team match between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, taken on SCU. But Omega doesn't want none of this now. He is a single star. Don't even talk about his past. The real interesting part though was that the Cowboy shined throughout all of this, much like he had done in those tag team title bouts where he saved their tag team titles time and time again. I mean, he looked great. Kazarian did too, but the focus was meant to be on Hangman Adam Page. And sure, you could call it your atypical AEW match, but that is no bad thing, and the Cowboy did indeed win after the buckshot lariat. But he was just so upset afterwards, because he looked for his former tag team buddy to maybe get in the ring and have a little bit of a shindig, but Omega just walked off, leaving Adam in the squared circle to have a little bit of beer. Look, that is not going to help, Hangman. You need to get away from the booze as soon as you can. It was basically the start of your downfall. This really is one of the best stories in wrestling, though, because not only has everybody involved just had all the patience in the world, but the one guy that has caused it, being Hangman Adam Page, is also the guy you have tremendous sympathy for. How the hell did we get here? Let's give it a round of applause. I really enjoy MJF too. I don't know what that says about me, because he's meant to be a numpty, but up. He destroyed Sean Dean in seconds here. I mean, it was the definition of a squash match, and afterwards Wardlow was chucking him out the ring to pledge his allegiance to Maxwell Jacob Friedman after all the fracas they had 7 days ago. Maxwell wasn't done though, because he's still absolutely livid about everything John Moxley did at the pay-per-view, so told Justin Roberts, from now on, you announce me as the undeclared and unofficial AEW champion, but it's true. And originally, Justin Roberts was like, oh, it's Maxwell Jacob. He was like, not like that, you absolute moron, do it properly. So Justin Roberts put his big boy voice on, like, here comes MJF. He also ripped into the promotion itself, because it seems like to get any kind of success around here, you have to be a part of some kind of faction, and you have to be a part of some kind of group. And the man ain't wrong. It's true, it's happening all the time. Then he made a bunch of Wolfpack references, and I'm sure Insider fans are like, tee-hee-hee. I know that because I was tee-hee-hee. He also hinted that maybe he now was going to do the same, which makes him a hypocrite, but MJF would be a hypocrite, and I'm intrigued. Is he going to join the Inner Circle? Is he going to start his own? What's he going to call it? Questions we need answering. I don't really know what happened. I do know that Eddie Kingston is one of the best promo guys in All Elite Wrestling, but he was out here with all of his boys and all of his friends, but made it very clear that they're not boys, they're not friends, they are familia, and they've got each other's backs. Then doubly reminded us that he did not get thrown out of the Battle Royal. Go check out the rules. And given that Lance Archer mentioned this later on too, you just know those two are gonna feud eventually. But then they just all lost their tempers, and they grabbed Griff Garrison and some other guy from the crowd, and they just absolutely started to beat them up. What did Griff Garrison ever do to you? Also, shout out to my man Griff. I really like him. I think he should be pushed to the moon. I hope you're doing all right after this unnecessary assault. Kingston also kept hinting that the Blade needed to go and sort out the situation with his wife, referring to the bunny or Ali, and yeah, that didn't really go anywhere either. So when this was done, I was like, well, the guy can talk, of course he can, but it was like leaving my house and wanting to go visit my parents, but winding up at my mates. It wasn't what I intended, and I didn't know what was going on. So it's a wait and see situation at the moment, because either they're going to become this dominant force in AEW, or they're all going to fall out and they're all going to break up. It's just lost on me at the moment. I don't know, it's probably because of me. I Am Stupid, the sequel to I Am Legend. Then just Chris Jericho, man. It was him and Jake Hager taking on Private Party. And let's be honest, if the former AEW champion and former Undisputed champion had decided he wanted to wreck them, nobody would have said anything. We may have been a little bit upset. We were like, yeah, we get it. We're building them up as a tag team. But that's not what he did. He bumped around the place like he was a brand new guy. And I was really impressed. That sounds really weird, but old school guys never do this. But Chris Jericho's like, well, you know what? I am up. He even made me at one point believe that Private Party were going to win, even though that made me a schmuck, because of course they weren't. But really, this was all down to Cassidy, the absolute idiot Cassidy. He had been selling his back the whole time after it had been beaten the hell out of, and rather than try and pin Chris Jericho when he had him down, he climbed to the top rope, he went for the swanton. He couldn't have missed more, to be honest. It's like, if I tell you I'm going to poke myself in the eye and go whoop, I mean, that's how much he missed. Chris Jericho hit the Judas effect, down he went, 1, 2, 3, the Inner Circle move on. I'm gonna guess at some stage to the tag team titles. This really is the best way to keep all the momentum on your main dudes while also putting a big finger going, yeah, but you need to watch these young cats because they're gonna go to the top. And we doubled down on that afterwards because Jericho put Cassidy in the walls of Jericho, allowing Mark Quinn to have a little bit of offense. So it was the good guys that were standing tall at the end, while Chris Jericho and Jake Hager ran away with their tails tucked between their legs. So they were taking no crap, even though they lost. And look, also, some people go, I don't like the AEW tag team matches, they just fly around like birds. Well, this was much more of a traditional presentation, so now they're giving you everything. There was also a lot of intrigue for our next contest, which was Ivelisse taking on Thunder Rosa for the NWA Women's Championship. So it's like, that was new. And really, it was just okay. And that probably sounds a little bit harsher than I mean it to, but it didn't live up to the heights of Shida versus Thunder Rosa at the pay-per-view. And I kind of just sat there watching it going, yeah, I'm having a good time, this is solid stuff, but it never really got me out of my seat. And I'm not joking, sometimes I jump out of my seat. My neighbors come round, knock on my door, and they're like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, you get out of here, man. I'll do whatever the hell I want, because I'm a rebel. And maybe it was down to the fact that he never actually believed that Thunder Rosa was going to lose, and also Shida was in the crowd the whole time just staring at this. I mean, her face may as well have said, I want a rematch. And after Thunder Rosa had one after a tombstone, which looked pretty good, Ivelisse and Diamante were beating up. Shida got in the ring and chased them away. So maybe we're going to do some kind of tag team thing, but I really do think before long we'll end up with that match round 2, which people want. But yeah, this was, like I say, it was fine. It was okay. It was decent. But it's not like it deserves an up, and it's not like it deserves a down. We're just somewhere in the middle, and I ain't adding a new counter. Maybe really overall, we just need a few more talking segments and promos with the women so I can get to know them a bit better, and then I can invest. Miro, however, was then bench pressing. It was like AEW knew what I wanted in my life, and they just gave it to me. Also, massive respect and shout out to Penelope Ford, who was spotting the former Rusev, because he was lifting a lot of weight, so she must have all the power. And even though he jumped up like, I want to destroy someone, I want to kill someone, Kip Sabian was like, dude, calm down. You've got something else you need to do first, being the best man, and that's sort out my bachelor party. And Miro's like, oh, you're right. So that's what they're going to do. Finish with the pair fist pumping Penelope Ford, and yeah, it's not exactly what I expected from Miro, but you know how it's going to end. He will beat up Kip Sabian, probably during his wedding. And the irony of that. But it's fun enough for now. They keep talking about their Twitch channels, which makes me chuckle. Let's see. I tell you too, you do not want to be in the crowd in the front row if you go to an AEW show. You're in real trouble. Because Lance Archer and Jake Roberts were out to cut a promo, and as soon as Lance laid his eyes on anybody, he grabbed him, pulled him over the barricade, and destroyed him in the ring. And I bet in his mind he was like, I really want to throw him through the roof, but unfortunately there's no ceiling at Daly's place, it's an outside venue. As ever, Jake Roberts was super creepy and weird to the point you just have to shake it off, because some of the things he says and the way he says it, but the long and the short of it is that these two guys have actually made a deal with Team Taz, Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Because those three are going to have a 6-man tag team match against Jon Moxley and 2 of his friends, and to sort of add a little bit of a sweetener to it, they're only doing it because as soon as Archer does beat Moxley for that belt, the number 1 person to get a shot will be Brian Cage. So it's the enemy of my enemy is a friend, and let's all rub each other's backs and give each other kisses. This was all underlined when Jon Moxley came out to try and confront them when Cage and Starks appeared from nowhere and started to beat him up. But do you know who Jon Moxley has actually recruited as a friend, as a buddy, as a pal? Because up to this point, he's been all like Lone Wolf, Lone Ranger, I don't care. None other than Will Hobbs, who was having a fantastic day, because not only did he get signed to AEW, earlier on Wednesday, here he was with a steel chair making up the numbers. And Moxley, being the world champion and being one of the most popular guys in the company, he put him over like Rover, so straight away you're like, oh man, I should get behind Will Hobbs. So now I am Will Hobbs' #1 fan. But then John also looked right down the barrel of the lens like I'm doing now, and he said, the third guy, the person I need is Hulk Hogan. No, that was 1996. It is
Darby Allin.
So that ties into all of their narrative and all the fights and the mum, dad, sister, brother thing they had going on. I don't mean to get so excited, but I just thought it worked so well. And it's getting it up. It was then time to fight for Sue. Now this broke my heart a few weeks ago because I've said it once and I've said it twice and I'll say it 999 times more. You don't mess with somebody's mother, and yet that is what Santana and Ortiz have done ever since they wrecked that minivan. So the best friends finally had a chance to put it right, and the crazy thing here is that this was more bloody, and it was more gory, and it was more intense than some programs where you've seen broken bones or home invasions. That's how much this means to everybody involved, and it is getting an up. It is one of the best main events I've seen on Dynamite. They hit each other with everything they could find, and they also came up with a spot that I don't think I've ever seen, because they took Santana and they put him under the hood of a car, so they pulled it down on him, and then swantoned him, meaning the metal just crushed his body. And unless they went out and found a fake car, that must have really hurt. Trent was then getting power bombed on the roof of another vehicle and thrown through the flipping windscreen, and you should have seen his back during this. It made me want to cry tears of absolute terror because it looked like it hurt so bad. And just when it seemed like the Inner Circle folk were gonna win, who popped out of the back of a car but Orange Cassidy to make the save. He also punched these guys in the face, but he had a chain around his fist, so everybody was losing their damn minds. Taylor then used all that fracas to pile drive Ortiz into yet another car, and I was like, look, I understand it all around, but in one company you can't pile drive anyone, and in AEW we're doing this. And just to top it off, if that was even possible, Trent gave Ortiz a crunchy onto a car, but threw a piece of wood first. The crunchy looks terrifying enough in the ring, and here we were doing it in the middle of the street. That did mean they were able to get the win. They got retribution for Sue, and if you have no plans on watching this, I strongly suggest that you change your plans. If that wasn't enough either, AEW went out of their way to ensure that the bad guys got the comeuppance that was coming to them, but also to leave you with a smile on your face and feeling really satisfied. Because at this very opportune moment, Sue pulled up in a brand new minivan, I presume. The best friends and Orange Cassidy got in it, but just before she hit the accelerator, she put her hand out the window and she flipped Santana and Ortiz off. I honestly cannot tell you how good this made me feel in my tum-tum. And that's what wrestling should do. The good guys won, the bad guys lost, and the person that didn't deserve to be involved in any of this got to flip somebody off like she was Stone Cold Steve Austin circa 1998. This may have been the best moment of 2020, not just in wrestling, but in life, and I loved every single moment of it, and I'm so happy for Sue. If you haven't figured out, this whole episode of Dynamite is also getting an up. It was so easy to watch, it flew by, it set all these things up for next week that I'm excited about, and we have that 1 hour show next Tuesday featuring Chris Jericho. They made sure to let us know that. We're gonna give it some thumbs. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's episode of Dynamite. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read about the show. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, to stay up to date with everything in wrestling, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Remember to tune in tomorrow for retro ups and downs. We're doing WWECW Dismember to Dismember, December to Dismember, whatever, that crappy thing from 2006. Thanks a lot. I'll see you then.